Hola, buenas tardes, bienvenidos a todos a un nuevo episodio de Life in Music. Hoy muy contentos con nuestro invitado, bueno, siempre estamos contentos con nuestros invitados, un gran artista, un gran ingeniero y productor, pero sobre todo un excelente ser humano, que estoy seguro que al escuchar su historia los va a marcar y los va a motivar a luchar siempre por sus sueños. Y bueno, mi nombre es Cristian Almanza, soy director de Music and Arts Institute y artista Casio Music México. Y pues bueno, vamos a empezar con Life in Music. Este es nuestro episodio número 24 y estamos súper contentos de tenerlos aquí. No quiero dejar de mencionarles los talleres que tenemos en Music and Arts Institute. Pueden escribirnos a nuestra página para preguntar acerca de ellos. Son talleres de guitarra, bajo, batería, canto y teclado. Entonces, cualquier duda que tengan al respecto pueden escribirnos. Gracias a las personas que se están conectando, Raciel, Sebastián, y bueno, gracias por estar aquí. Y vamos a presentar a nuestro artista de hoy. Y su nombre es Alex Oana, el maestro Alex Oana. Aquí está con nosotros. Hi, Master.
Hey, hola, everybody. It's so good to be with you, Christian. Thank you for inviting me to be on the show.
Thanks to you, Master. It's a big honor having you here.
I can't believe you still call me Master.
Because
Do you
you
call
are.
all your friends Master?
No, but you are a big master in every way.
Thank you. I feel flattered. I've just tried to pursue the things that interest me and excite me, and that's been quite a journey, which I think we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, of course. We are so happy to listen to you, your about your career, your stories. Well, can we start?
Oh man, let's start. I can't wait. You and I have been, setting up this live stream for months, and I'm just so excited that we're finally making it happen.
Great. Well, can you tell us about your interest in music and audio? Where
Oh man.
this begin?
Well, it started literally at the ground level because when I was a little baby, I would crawl around under the piano as my mom would practice piano at home because you see, she was the church organist. And so every week she would practice the pieces that she would be playing later that Sunday. And I was the youngest, I am the youngest of three kids. And as a little baby, I had my head down by that very resonant soundboard of the piano, and I saw her feet working and I saw her hands moving, and it just filled up the whole room. And I swear those vibrations just changed me. And then I had a similar experience again when I was crawling around on the floor, but this time next to my dad's hi-fi speakers. And whatever record was on, when I would go near those speakers and go by that woofer, that woofer would like shake me as a little baby. And I think it's the feeling of those vibrations that always stayed with me. And then throughout my whole life, I have just continually sought out. What's the word? I've always been looking for, I think, recreating the emotion of that kind of experience, being that close to the sound.
Okay, entonces tu interés fue más hacia el sonido que hacia los instrumentos.
So your interest was more into the sound than into the instruments?
Well, okay, so of course, coming from a very musical family, my mother played piano and organ, and she was a singer. Both of my older sisters played an instrument and sang, and I couldn't help but not play an instrument. So I studied piano until I got bored with that, and then my mom said, okay, if you're giving up piano, you have to pick up another instrument. So then it was saxophone. And I think it was marching in the marching band out in the rain and the mud that killed me. So I gave up saxophone, and then I thought, okay, well, what other musical thing can I do? And in high school, right after band class, came in the choir for choir class. And that's where I saw all the cute girls. So I was like, okay, I'm joining the choir.
Eso es algo muy interesante porque la mayoría de las personas están como todo el tiempo tratando de tocar un instrumento.
That's very interesting because all the time people are trying to learn how to play an instrument.
Entonces tú tomaste el camino del audio.
So you took the way of the audio.
So I started with, so, there's a saying in life that you should try to make your job the thing that you love the most. And although I loved music and I would have loved to have become, Eddie Van Halen or Robert Plant or something like that. And I even in college, I joined bands and I was in bands after college, but I was never good enough for my own standards. And also like playing guitar. And Julian, who is here with us today too, Julian is a guitar student. He is a guitar player. And he probably has something I will never have with guitar. And that is just the passion to play it over and over again, to get it perfect and to evolve and grow. And for some reason, Christian, I just never had the patience with an instrument to learn and grow. But the funny thing is, the moment I put my hands on a mixing board, that was it for me. For me, working in sound is never work.
Lo importante de esto es que finalmente encontraste cuál era tu camino en la música.
The important thing about this is that you finally found your way on the music, your right path.
Porque es a veces complicado, si no encontramos el instrumento correcto o el área correcta, lo abandonamos.
Because it's complicated. I mean, if you don't find your right instrument or the right area or genre, I understand, we just leave it, just for say.
I think that is a great point, and it sounds like what you're saying is that working with sound and mixing boards and microphones and the role of the engineer, that is those tools are like instruments in themselves, and that is very much a part of the musical process, and that is where I found my expression with music, was from the production side of things. So after even while I was in college, I found I finally made that association between what I was reading in the liner notes of my favorite records and how that would happen. And so it was when I got to college that I first realized, oh, a microphone plugged into a mixing board with equalization and reverb effects, and that's how these things are made. These records that I love, these CDs that I love, these musical experiences that just totally moved me, the kind of experience that I wanted to have over and over again. And that's when the light bulb went off for me. Yeah, I can make music in a different way, sort of from the other side of the glass.
Claro, muchas veces pensamos que solo tenemos la posibilidad de entrar a la industria de la música tocando algún instrumento.
Yeah, we all think that we can only get into the music industry by playing an instrument.
Pero también hay muchas áreas como la tuya que son importantísimas para llevar a cabo la producción de un disco.
But there's a lot of sections, like areas like yours, to become a great artist or a musician.
En vivo o en algún álbum.
Live or in an album.
It's so true. And what that reminds me of is collaboration. And if there's anything that I've learned over my career, collaboration is everything. It is so rare that a single person produces something that is transcendent, all by themselves. Oftentimes, especially when it comes to recordings and media productions, video, stuff like that, it's and making a product even, which I have a lot of experience in now too. It's always a collaboration, and it's just magical when you can find people to work with that really combine their ideas and their ways of working and their vision and their passion and their drive to make something beyond what any one individual can make. And so, yes, of course, when it comes to music, it's something that the general public doesn't necessarily realize, is that there's all these creative individuals behind that artist, supporting that artist, contributing in ways that they will probably never be credited for. I recently saw a picture, I think it was, of Lady Gaga and her writing team, and I think it was in a professional audio trade magazine or something like that. And I thought, number one, it can be frustratingly rare that the engineers and producers and behind the scenes people get the real credit that they deserve. Sometimes the name artist that is getting the credit, really their main contribution is to go out and perform the work that has been created by others. And that happens in various degrees. Sometimes they're very involved, but I think that's one of the things, I referenced that I grew up reading liner notes, and some people don't even know what that is, but it's basically the credits, who contributed to the making of this piece of art. And I've seen quite a number of different companies out there who are figuring out ways to make sure that the collaborators and creative contributors get the credit that they deserve. And oftentimes, and think about it, like, I don't want to just follow my artist. I want to follow the people who helped create that art. Like, I have favorite mixers, I have favorite producers. And if I could go on Spotify or YouTube or wherever I get my music and follow the thread of their creative trail, their creative path, that would be really exciting.
Les da el crédito que merecen.
Yeah, you have a lot of reason. I mean, they don't get the credit that they usually deserve.
Y todos ustedes son importantísimos para poder transmitir el mensaje del artista.
And all of you are so important to transmit the message of the artists.
All of us together, absolutely.
Sí, no podríamos tener un gran disco sin un buen ingeniero, un buen productor y sin buenos músicos.
Yeah, we can have a good disc or album without good engineers, good musicians, or good
productores, ingenieros.
Producers, engineers, and musicians.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's so true, and thank goodness there is a path for people who love music, and yet they're not like Julian. They don't find their satisfaction and their exploration and their adventure within the instrument, within what we traditionally think of instruments. But who says that a mixing board and the microphones and the whole construction of the technical side of things, that's a whole puzzle, musical puzzle in itself. So I absolutely, I just encourage anybody who is thinking, who loves music, and maybe, Christian, let me ask you, how do you help people who show an interest in the technical side of things? And I think it's, if I can take that back a second, to describe engineering, to put it in the corner of only technical, I think is oftentimes wrong, especially these days, because even someone who would call themselves purely a musician is likely to also be an engineer, likely to also be a producer. So, Christian, how do you help young creative engineers and creative producers explore their path and learn?
Puedes siempre incluirlos en cualquier proyecto que yo esté desarrollando.
He always tries to include them in every project that he is developing.
En un proyecto como de composición, y vamos elaborando los temas y vamos escuchando canciones para que ellos aprendan a identificar como los procesos para hacer un disco.
To understand how they get involved into stuff like into production and listening to songs to know exactly what they're getting into. Sorry, it was a little bit long.
Okay.
That's all good. That's all good. Yeah, so it's
try
about that
to
collaboration, right? Working together.
yeah I try to deconstruct with all the students really several songs, and I try to teach them. Listen this. They try to do this. I try to translate to make a musical translate about how the engineer or producer thinks, and try to make them understand how the right sound it would be a massive effect on the people and our feelings.
Yes. Yes.
That's the way I try to do it, man.
And then that's the way that I learned. And I think that the way a lot of us learn is that we try to study what our heroes do. And when I came up, at first, before I knew I was going to be a recording engineer and producer, I was soaking up all of the sounds of my favorite records. And the interesting thing for me, I think that some people like music more, like their love for music can be more isolated towards really just the musical content of it, like the song, the lyrics. And then there's people way over on the other side who are really affected by the way it sounds and the production. And for me, that's oftentimes how I really come into music. It's the sound of it and the feelings that you were talking about that get created by the sound. Then when it gets combined with the quality of the vocalist and the what the lyrics evoke, that's when I'm really, really hooked in. So me feel and move isn't there, then I probably won't like it as much.
Bueno, lo voy a decir en español. Es muy importante para el músico contemporáneo saber cuestiones de producción.
Yeah, it's very important for the music of these days to learn a lot about production.
Y saber acerca
and so study your favorite records, right?
Yeah, of course. We have to learn about this because sometimes when we are making a record, we are recording an album, sorry, maybe we don't have enough money to pay someone to produce that album, and we are going to do that ourselves.
And that's totally okay. I love that the power to fully realize a creative vision is not limited anymore by access to expensive and complicated resources. You've put your finger right on probably the most important evolution and really revolution of the recording industry. So, it's and it's not just access to the tools to produce things like, I didn't need to set up a separate microphone preamp and a separate analog to digital converter to be able to have a high quality microphone to do this live stream with you. There's one cord that goes from this IK Multimedia iRig USB mic into my laptop. And suddenly, we're communicating, and that's what music is. So there's these tools that make it so much more instantaneous, and now it's so much more instantaneous also to be able to share that. Who needs a record label? Who needs radio? It's all at our fingertips now, and so I absolutely encourage everybody to not limit yourself in any way, and especially at the beginning, don't limit yourself by needing it to be perfect or needing it to be exactly like your heroes. Explore, make mistakes, make bold mistakes, try big things, try to totally copy your heroes, try to totally, and through all this process, you will hopefully find your own voice, because that's what the world needs. The world doesn't need a carbon copy of Christian or Julian or Alex. They need you and what you do.
Correcta para decirlo.
And I think you are the right person to say that.
En, en un momento la gente sabrá por qué digo esto.
In a little moment, people will understand why he says that.
Oh, cool. Okay, bring it on. Let's go there. Let's go. I've got some coffee here. Let's get it going.
Okay. You received several awards in Minnesota for Best Producer and Best Independent Recording and many more. Can you tell us about this and your work as a producer and engineer in hace varios años?
A long time ago.
A long time ago, sorry.
Totally, man. Yeah, ancient history. Well, I think a really important thing to understand about awards is they're wonderful to receive. And oftentimes awards are not necessarily a de facto statement about who is best, but it's really an acknowledgement from a community. And I love the community of music in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. And that's where I became an engineer after I went to college in Minnesota. And really the 11 Minnesota Music Awards that I won for engineering and production were a recognition from that community, I think, and how much a part of it that I had become. And there was nothing that felt better really than to get that acknowledgement from my community. I imagine that, if I were ever to be a Grammy winner, or if that some Grammy winners might feel that way too, or like imagine that Oscar speech when they go up and say, thank you to the Academy. Well, who is the Academy? The Academy is their fellow actors and actresses and directors and filmmakers, So that's the most wonderful thing, is to be recognized by other people who are working and aspiring for that artistic greatness, just like you are. So I do feel very fortunate to have had that recognition.
Sí, porque a veces es difícil ser reconocido en tu propia ciudad.
Yeah, because sometimes it's difficult to get recognized in your own city.
That's a really interesting point. And the Minnesota Music Awards that I was a part of many years ago, they no longer exist. And I think that acknowledgement and aspiration is really important. And awards are one thing, but I think it's really, people find their inspiration in different ways. And I think there's some maybe controversy around whether art should, what is the goal of art? Is it to become, especially in music, to become famous? To make a lot of money, or is it to express yourself? And how do all these things coexist? And I think really probably the most rewarding thing for an artist, especially, and particularly in music, is when it's that combination of, belief in oneself. I'm pleased with what I did. I'm proud of my work. And then to also have it acknowledged by lots of people liking it. And then and that's so much more important than the money that comes. Of course, it's great to have that kind of acknowledgement too. But okay, I've kind of lost track of what the question was. But I was just thinking about what inspires us as creators, and what really feels like an arrival. What feels like we have achieved some aspect of our dream. I can tell you this though, from my own perspective and from other people I know who are creators of any kind, the hunger really never goes away. So let's say I win an award or something like that. Well, I know that I can be so much better. I'm just moving on to the next thing. Like I created a product called the Slate Raven. It's a touchscreen that controls DAWs, and it's a fairly well-known product to some people, and so I think when people from the outside go like, wow, that's such a huge thing, that's such a big deal, and then but me, I feel like, oh, I see all the things that I wanted to change about it, that I want to be different about it, or I see what I want to do next. And I think that's such a mark, from what I know, it's a mark of many artists, that they're always aspiring for the next thing, and they're always challenging themselves, and whether they would call it this or not, they're always looking to grow and expand.
Es algo muy importante el siempre tratar de superarnos a nosotros mismos.
That's something really important, to always try and surpass ourselves.
Esa es la base de no solo de un gran artista, sino de un gran profesionista.
That is the base of not just a great artist, but of a great professionalist.
And I bet you
help people have that professional mindset, Christian.
Trato de hacerlo. Trabajamos mucho para todos nuestros alumnos.
Well, he really tries.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even wait for the translation. I must be understanding everything you're saying. Thank you, Julian. Though,
sorry.
I was just thinking about how important teachers and mentors are in our lives.
I can reflect back on when I first became a recording engineer. I was really fortunate to have a couple of people that could teach me and I could look up to. But also, I really acknowledged there was a period when I felt a bit alone in my journey in Minneapolis. I felt like there was a certain sound that I was going for, and it just really wasn't being made by people around me and and where I was. And part of me just really longed for having a teacher and having a mentor that could help me learn the things that I needed to learn, and really just fill in the missing pieces of the puzzle. There were just a couple of simple things that if I could have been taught, really would have unlocked some things for me. So, I would imagine you as an educator, part of your job is to find out, what's inside these students, what is their vision, and then how to help them on their path to learn the things and at least start exploring what is going to help them express themselves.
Sí, en Music and Arts somos todo un equipo y sin todos los maestros no sería esto posible.
Yeah, in Music and Arts we are an entire team, and without all the teachers we have here, none of it would have been possible.
Siempre tratamos de transmitirles lo mejor de nosotros y que esto sea un poco de ayuda para su camino.
Yeah, we just try to transmit everything that we can to them and help them on their way.
I bet you do.
So you keep calling me master. I am sure you are a master as well.
Thank you very much. You are my master. I know about you from an article talking about your career and a specific aspect of your new project, Audio Test Kitchen. And can you tell us about this? Yeah. Now that the people are understanding, why are you in your kitchen?
That's right. Yeah. Right. Because my company is Audio Test
Kitchen. So this may be a familiar term to some, but a test kitchen, the idea of a test kitchen is it's a place where the whole idea is to go in and experiment and try out new things, try out new recipes and perfect things. And it's a little bit like the meeting of a laboratory and art and expression, right? And so here's an example of something that might happen in a test kitchen. Let's say you're trying to perfect this sauce with onions or something like that. And so what you'll do, and I haven't really done this, and I'm only an amateur foodie. I love food. I love making food, but I'm not nearly as good at food as I am at sound. Okay, but in a test kitchen, you might say, okay, I'm going to try to perfect this recipe. So I'm going to try every kind of onion I can find. I'm going to try cooking the onions in different ways before I add it to the sauce. What other flavors can I enhance? And so what you do on the scientific side is, and this is how the parallel is with Audio Test Kitchen, is you try to isolate among all the elements, one element at a time, or one variable at a time. So to find the perfect sauce, the perfect onion sauce, you might make it exactly the same way every time, the same temperature, the same time, the same ingredients, except for that one thing that you're going to change out. It's a red onion. It's a yellow onion. It's a white onion. It's shallots. It's green onions, until you arrive at the thing. And all the way along, you're measuring. You're saying, okay, we cooked it for this long. We added this much salt. So if you can, that was the inspiration for the idea of what Audio Test Kitchen is all about. So Audio Test Kitchen, in the end, makes it possible for people to, online on our website, really understand what pro audio products sound like. So many of us, and it's even worse now in the state of a pandemic, we can't get to a place where we can explore all of our options for, say, like a microphone. What do all the microphones sound like that will help me realize my vision? What do all the guitars sound like? What do all the pedals sound like? And so Audio Test Kitchen, through this very careful controlling of variables in a very scientific process, facilitates the creation of art by making it easier for people to find the tools, the equipment that they need to realize their vision, their sonic vision.
Es una gran idea y ustedes no venden micrófonos.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and you guys don't sell microphones.
Ustedes orientan a las personas para que escojan la mejor opción de micrófono.
You orientate people so that they choose the right microphone.
Para el género musical que quieran desarrollar.
For the right genre of music that they want to develop.
O la idea que ellos tengan en mente.
Or the idea they have in mind.
Exacto.
For example, I buy this mic, this Rode mic.
I see your Rode microphone. Yeah, popular microphone.
Is there. Porque una amiga me prestó el suyo y lo pude probar.
Because a friend of mine made me choose one, and so he borrowed it and he let me test it.
Because I never buy a mic like this, and I don't know how to choose one. So you make that work for us.
We make it possible. It's easy. It's on our website. It's free. And take Rode, for example. I think we have 7 different Rode microphones, large diaphragm condenser mics, just like the one that you showed me. And not only can you hear how they each sound different on many different sources, male vocals, female vocals, high, low, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass, drums, percussion, tambourine, hi-hat, all of these things that totally tell the story of what every one of those microphones sounds like. And on top of that, you can compare the frequency response overlaid on top of each other. So if I want to instantly understand, okay, which of these Rode microphones is the brightest one, because I have a very dull voice or whatever, or which one is the least bright because I'm recording, I don't know, a violin and I want it to be very neutral. You can not only can you hear it on Audio Test Kitchen, but you can instantly see it as well. I just did this exact comparison 2 days ago because I was curious. I was like, I wonder what really the difference is between all of these Rode microphones. So I just loaded up my taste test. It's called a taste test. So I searched for Rode, put every one of them in my taste test, and I could instantly see the difference in their frequency response, bright, dark, mid-range, all these things. And then I could instantaneously hear them on a variety of sources. And so now I'm a little bit of a Rode microphone expert.
Claro, y es que precisamente como lo comentas, necesitamos escoger el micrófono adecuado para el instrumento adecuado.
Yeah, sure. And just how you say, we have to choose the right microphone for the. We have to choose the right microphone for the right moment and in the right instrument.
I love this mic really. When I record acoustic guitars,
Yeah.
it sounds maybe even better than the instrument. It's very weird because I rather listen my guitar a través
through the microphone. You would rather hear your guitar through the mic than just right there. That's so funny, especially with a little bit of reverb on it. That sounds really good.
With your page, I learned more about many mics because here in Xalapa it's difficult to have access to many microphones.
Yeah, I mean, it's this way all over the world, especially now. I mean, there are probably somewhere between 2 and 4 showroom, like retail businesses where you can go and really do comparisons, of microphones or any equipment. And so few people can get to those places. And now those places are closed. And there are not, there are schools, fortunately, where people can do this, but not everyone has access to the school. And right now, and this is something that schools like yours, Christian, have been reaching out to Audio Test Kitchen, asking us our permission to incorporate Audio Test Kitchen into their microphone learning curriculum and into their ear training and critical listening curriculum, because it's just all right there. And we did something that very few people who do, shootouts and online comparisons have done. We made it totally unbiased. Like I was saying earlier, we controlled all the variables. So you can be totally assured that when you're comparing one microphone to the next microphone, the only differences that you will hear are between these microphones. There was no difference in the performance. There was no difference in the tuning of the drum. There was no difference in the signal chain, the mic cable, the mic pre, the gain. All of this stuff was matched scientifically.
Claro, porque yo no conozco a alguien como tú que haya hecho todas estas pruebas.
Yeah, because he doesn't know anyone that has done something like all these testing like you did.
Es muchísimo trabajo y nos ayuda a los músicos, a los ingenieros y a los productores.
Yeah, it's a lot of work and it helps the musicians, engineers, and producers.
En escoger la herramienta perfecta para transmitir esas emociones.
To choose the right tool to engage on those emotions that you have.
Christian, as you and I get to know each other better, you will find that I am very uninterested in doing things the way they've been done before or the way everybody else wants to do them. And in this way, the products that I've created, the Raven Audio Test Kitchen, these are my own personal vision for the kind of world that I want to exist. And remarkably, doing both of these things was exceedingly challenging. And producing this kind of content for Audio Test Kitchen continues to be exceedingly challenging. But here's the thing. When you love something, the challenges this sounds exciting. They're opportunities. They're the kinds of problems that we want to solve. Okay, I mean, in the world, there are some problems that we just don't want to have. They're a pain. And then there are these problems that attract us. they pull us in. And we like these problems, and we seek out ways to have more of them. So for me, I love the problem that Audio Test Kitchen is continuing to solve.
Y me parece increíble esto que comentas acerca de las escuelas pidiéndote incluir Audio Test Kitchen en su programa curricular.
Yeah, it's just very cool how some schools ask you to add Audio Test Kitchen to their learning, into their curriculum.
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 Very well said, Julian.
Sorry.
And the timing, the timing could not be more perfect. Okay, I mean, come on. How many businesses in the world really
modeled their business off of the possibility of a global pandemic? Nobody really. But it just so happens that the kind of access that we created, online on a website that's totally free, anybody who has internet access can get to it. It's like, from the beginning, we've referred to it as a virtual showroom. The place where you can go and explore and find the thing that lights up your ears, the thing that brings joy to your ears.
So I want to say,
I'm sorry. I just want to say one more thing. So if it's not clear, what this is about is, we've been talking about encouraging individuals to be their own artist, to find their own voice. And Audio Test Kitchen is all about your choice, your ears, so that you can express your individuality as an artist.
Claro, y esto es muy importante porque a veces solo nos dejamos guiar por la publicidad.
Yeah, because sometimes we only let us guide us from the publicity.
O por un consejo.
Or from an advice.
Pero no necesariamente es lo que nosotros buscamos.
But it's not necessarily what we're looking for.
Totally. And oh my God, marketing
is such a force of nature. And some people are so good at marketing. The success of their products or company is unrelated to the quality of their products. So we've and the thing is, we are human beings, and so we are always, it's very difficult to not be susceptible to the marketing hype. But it's and that is from the beginning. When we started this journey over 3 years ago, we identified that exact phrase: skip the hype.
How can we
go around all the things everybody else is saying about it? And let's look at language. How can your definition of something that is warm, here, what do? If we can't experience the product for ourselves, if there was no Audio Test Kitchen, if there was no showroom to go to, if there was no borrowing the microphone from your friend, what do we have? What tools do we have to try to create an understanding about what these tools could do for us? Well, we use language. So we've invented words that have taken on a sound association: warm, rich, bright, punchy, clear, neutral, strident, biting, all these things. But here's the problem. Your definition of each one of those words might be different than mine. We might even describe them. We might go to great length to describe them. But when it comes to your experience with sound, it's very personal. And so the invention of Audio Test Kitchen is a way to bypass what's really been just a crutch or a Band-Aid on the problem. Instead, we're just delivering the answer right to you. We're delivering the means, the empowerment for you to get the answer for yourself.
A mí también algo que me sorprende es que sea gratis.
Yeah, and something that surprises us is that it's free. It's like unlimited power.
Unlimited power.
Sí, creo que como lo mencionabas antes, esto nos hace ver lo diferente de tus proyectos.
Yeah, just like how you mentioned before, this is what we see on the difference on your projects.
Y en lo diferente que es tu manera de pensar y que por eso es que has trascendido.
And your different way of thinking and the way you have transcended.
I love that. I don't know that anyone has ever said that I've transcended before, Christian. Thank you.
Creo que lo has hecho porque por eso es que nos conocimos y por eso estamos platicando.
And that is why we know each other and that's why we're talking right now.
Porque realmente cuando leí tu historia me conmovió.
Because when you read your story, it moved us.
You touched me, man. Really, you're a big inspiration. And can you tell us about this? Because I'm going to tell this in Spanish first.
Okay.
Yo conocí al maestro Alex Oana, para todo el público, por un artículo que de hecho pueden buscar Alex Oana en Google, y van a encontrar su historia, bueno, un poco de su historia con este proyecto Audio Test Kitchen, en el cual él invirtió todo y arriesgó todo, por así decirlo. Entonces creo que para todos es muy importante escuchar estas historias de personas que van más allá del dinero, luchan por lograr una meta, y él es la prueba de que sí se puede hacer, y estas son las historias que nosotros necesitamos en la vida para perseguir nuestros sueños. In English.
Okay, so you basically said he's given an introduction to the rest of the stuff that you're about to say about your personal stories and how you have, sacrificed some stuff for the sake of what you're doing right now.
Can you tell us about the implications of making your new company and all that you risk for doing this? Because that's so inspiring, Master, and that's why I tell you, Master, because you inspire me, and I try to work harder and reaching my goals for people like you, because I know that all is possible.
So I'm really experiencing the emotion of what you're talking about, because and the thing that occurs to me as you're describing, kind of in a nutshell, the journey of creating something like Audio Test Kitchen, the thing that occurs to me is how it can be pretty easy from the outside looking in to see an artist who has maybe had some kind of a breakthrough, like they have a hit record, or they make some famous piece of art, or they get popular, or they do something that just touches you as something remarkable, as something transcendent, to use your word. I think it's so easy from the outside to not really be able to relate to what it means to take a risk. Like, what were the risks involved? It seems from the outside, it's like, oh, well, they went and they wrote some songs, and then they went to the studio, and then they released the album, and it just seems so, or whatever it is. Oh, they had an idea and they drew it on a napkin, and then they went and they made it. And what I discovered, so I want to take you back for a second to what my role has been so up until the point where I made my first product, the Slate Raven. Up until that time, I was always assisting others to fulfill their artistic vision. So as a recording engineer and a producer, and sometimes I would usually, because I'm very passionate and have a very strong vision, would do everything I can to wherever I could contribute, if that meant like writing a string arrangement, or helping with lyrics, or really coaching the performance out of that person that I wanted. But really, was it my song? Was it my band? Usually not. I was usually in the role of facilitator. And it's just a very different role. And sometimes when I talk about Audio Test Kitchen as my company, I refer to it as my song and my band, because it's so different to put yourself out there and to own all that risk. And when you're, so specifically with Audio Test Kitchen, in order to pull off something on this scale, because just to be very specific, we believe that the resource will really empower people when they have all the choices before them, not just comparing between 10 or 20 of the most popular products, but all of them. And so doing something on that scale and figuring out a way to make it free and figuring out how to make it so reliable and unbiased and really so perfect, it even surprised us how difficult, how challenging that would truly be. So I didn't catch all of your introduction in Spanish to the article that you found on me, but one thing that article says, in talking about the risk that it can take, it's not just the risk of reputation, it's not just the risk of time, but
the less important thing, really.
Yeah.
So I had a career going and it was fine, but I just didn't feel fulfilled. So I guess it really wasn't fine. It wasn't fine to me. And I was exploring I was kind of looking around for other jobs, who can hire me to do all the things that I want to do. And when I wasn't getting anywhere, Christian, I sort of stopped and asked myself, I said, well, if why should I expect someone else to take a risk on me if I'm not willing to take that risk myself? So what did I do? I quit my job. I took out a second mortgage on my house. So that's, if people are familiar with that, what that means is the bank owns part of your house and then you own a little tiny part of your house. And they'll give you a second mortgage, give you a second monthly payment, but they'll give you a big chunk of cash if your house is worth more money than what you paid for it originally. So I had that situation. So I was like, okay, I am going to take a chance here. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to borrow money from my own house, understanding that, if this doesn't go as planned, I could lose my house. And so this was over 3 years ago. Do you want me to continue to describe the journey?
Of course.
So this is where
it gets difficult to talk about because, from the beginning, you get into a relationship. Do you ever imagine when you're falling in love that you might break up someday? When you get married, do you ever plan to get divorced? No. When you go out to create something, you don't plan for, you plan for your vision to be fulfilled. But what can happen is that when, especially with something very complex and involving lots of people, and especially when it represents a kind of a paradigm shift compared to how things used to be. So a shift in human behavior, a shift in the way things have always been done, then the risk is greater. The challenges are bigger. And when I took out that second mortgage on my house, my worst case scenario was that, hey, if this doesn't go as planned with Audio Test Kitchen, taking a risk on my own vision, my own business, I might have to sell this house. Honestly, between you and me, I never thought that would happen. I figured I would figure out a way to make it work. And
sorry,
yes.
I call that la benevolencia del universo.
The benevolence of the universe.
I call it that way. This is so risky, but we will fix it. I don't know how, but
It's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And so, on the one hand, I've thought of this possibility. Okay, I might have to sell my house as the worst case scenario. But then I began to think of it as plan B. So you have your plan A if everything goes according to plan. But as I described, with something so complicated, sometimes plan A doesn't happen. And so indeed for me, I had to choose plan B. The company, we had some problems with our website when we first launched it. And it's so hard to admit because the last thing that, a company, an entrepreneur wants to admit is that there's a flaw, but like we had some flaws in the way that our website was initially built, and it caused a limitation on our ability to grow. And that was 9 months ago. So we've spent the last almost 4 months totally rebuilding our website from the ground up so that it works 20 times faster and it has more content and it's everything that we intended it to be originally. But just that delay of those few months from when we launched our website last August, and then that was beta, and then officially in October, it caused enough delay in our plan that I had to choose plan B, and I had to sell my house. I mean, like, and I'm a dad. I have 2 kids. So like, Christian, things did not go according to plan. And the moment that I had to make that choice, a surprising thing happened. Because for 3 years, from the moment I took out that second mortgage on my house to the moment that I decided to sell it, I had always thought that would have been a defeat, that would represent failure. And it turns out the moment I decided to sell my house was the biggest relief, because all of a sudden I was totally out of debt. Now I have the freedom to do everything I want to do with the company that I was so, and I had this sort of ticking time bomb sense in my mind, like, okay, if the company doesn't like grow fast enough and do these things, then oh no, it's not going to work out. With the worst case scenario decision, all of a sudden it became the best case scenario. And it was also a great teacher. And I know I've been talking for a long time. I want to give you a chance to, of course, ask more questions, but I would love to, especially in the context of creating art, in the context of entrepreneurship, talk about failure. Because for the longest time, failure to me was so scary, and honestly, it still is. But failure, if you can figure out as an artist how to make failure work for you, you will grow and grow and grow. And I want to give you an example of that. We had so many failures with Audio Test Kitchen while we were trying to figure out how do you record a drum set and have it sound exactly the same over the course of several weeks and 300 microphones? So as we were trying to solve problems, we failed. And we kept failing, and it was like, oh my God, we're losing money, and we've got all these people we hired in these studios, and but it was in the failure that we found, because we kept going, we found a way forward. And I guess until you are there, until you've really, put yourself on the line, until you really take a risk and encounter these moments of failure, the moment you do, you realize that you have a choice. If you're lucky, you have a choice. Am I going to adapt? Am I going to learn? Am I going to grow? Am I going to face the hard truths about the mistakes that I made and commit to changing them? So I'm very fortunate to be in this position, to be able to continue to grow and learn and solve the problems. And I know that from the risk taking and from the learning and the vulnerability, that Audio Test Kitchen will only be better for the people that we are trying to serve. And I know that there's another huge reward in taking risks and failing, and that is who you become as a person when you find a way to move through that failure and keep going.
Esta parte que comentas acerca del fracaso, la gente realmente le tiene mucho miedo.
This thing you're talking about, failure, people really fear it a lot.
Pero el fracaso es la base del éxito.
But failure is the base of success.
Yes.
Y bueno, entonces tú has tomado tus fracasos para crecer no solo como profesional, sino como persona.
So you've taken your failures to grow not just as a professional, but as a person.
It's painful, but it's true.
Very painful.
It's so painful.
I know what are you talking about, really. But this is so important, and your family is very important to make this come true.
Okay, so here's a great example. You and I were talking before our broadcast started about our families. You have a young daughter who is 1.5 years old. I have a son and a daughter, and I very consciously, with great awareness, when I left my job and decided to pursue my own vision, realized that this is exactly what I want my kids to see, and if they're going to be influenced by anything from their father, from their parents, to see this willingness to take a risk and to believe in myself, and it's really scary because, of course, they could be the ones who have to pay the price. They lose their house that they grew up in. They might have to go to a different school. They might not have money to go on a trip or whatever. I mean, like, they're in it with me too. But the craziest things happen. When I put my kids to bed at night, we still have this beautiful, bedtime ritual. We talk to each other. We open up about things. And when my daughter tells me she's so proud of me for starting this company and for building this company, I mean, there is nothing better. Because, I did it for her, and I did it for my son.
Es muy emotivo esto, porque realmente es así como yo también lo pienso.
Yeah, it's very motivational. Motivational.
You know, Daddy. You know.
I know. I was trying really to analyze everything you're saying because it's very interesting, and then I have to translate what Christian's doing. Sorry. Yeah, because it's very interesting. I'm really understanding stuff. It's very motivating. That part of what's having a child and everything.
Yeah, because you and I and most of people try to work harder, not only for a professional goal. We try to do it because we want to give the best to our family, and I'm not talking about money.
Yeah.
We try to give them the best example of what should do, and I don't know, qué es lo mejor que tenemos que hacer en nuestra vida y tomar esos riesgos sin importar nada, ¿no?
What is the best thing we can do in our lives with taking those risks and without any care of it?
Ayer hablaba con un alumno acerca de esto.
Yesterday I was talking with a student about this.
Y él me decía que quiere dedicarse a la música,
He says he wants to dedicate himself to music,
pero que a veces decide poner los pies en la tierra
but sometimes he chooses the safe passage
en lugar de perseguir sus sueños.
instead of pursuing his dreams.
Y yo le decía que eso se me hace muy triste,
And he says that for him it's very sad.
porque creo que... Don't worry. Porque para mí como músico,
Yeah, because for me as a musician,
lo más importante es perseguir mis sueños.
the most important thing is to follow my dreams.
Es lo que me mantiene vivo.
It's what keeps me alive.
Entonces no puedo entender a alguien que no persigue sus sueños.
So you can't have somebody that doesn't chase their dreams.
Fist bump.
And you do, you are reaching your goals and your dreams.
Yeah, not always on schedule that I invent. I think that's also part of accepting failure. You have a vision and you do everything you can to make things go according to plan. But there's another thing that happens too that I observed over the course of the many leaps and partnerships and help that we needed along the way, and we needed certain people to say yes to certain things at times, and then when you get a no, or when a door closes, what you have to be open to is that if you're lucky, and let me say this differently. Okay, I'll complete that thought. So hopefully another door opens, and if you kind of embrace what that door might be, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, this is the path how it's supposed to work out. Because even like the delays that and like the fact that our website wasn't working like we wanted it to when we launched it last year, I feel like I'm in exactly the right place right now. Like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, how I am supposed to feel. And if I look back at like the journey, like some studio said, oh no, you can't come in here then. Well, that made it possible, for us to go into Harmon Laboratories or whatever and have access to the anechoic chambers. Like, just, it's weird to have to figure out how to be fluid, within the failure, like, and never, it's kind of like, people say, don't take no for an answer. Well, that's true. But then when the circumstance or reality forces, adaptation, there's something about embracing that adaptation. And I said a moment ago that if you're lucky, and I think that is a very oh man, that is a troubling word, because I think a more accurate phrase is fortunate, because I see where I was born, the schools that I went to, the opportunities that I've had, where I live now, the fact that the house that I bought increased in value so that I was able to borrow against it to start this company, the fact that I landed on my feet after selling it, the fact that I can continue to reinvest my own resources into building this company and to create this resource for people and to pursue my own passions, that there's a lot of fortune, and it's not luck. There's a lot of circumstantial advantages that I have. And every day I wake up aware of those and conscious of the fact that I need to do something with that. If I've been given some kind of advantage, which I have, I commit every day to figuring out how I can use that to help other people. And every day I feel a little bit guilty about the advantages that I have and that I have had that have led me to this place. And I think that, number one, like, we can't go through our lives being weighed down by what is and what we have. But we have to, I've believed for a long time, way before I started a company or anything, that life is about making the most of your own gifts, making the most of what you have, whatever your circumstance. So that is what I commit to every day, for all of my failings, for all of my, I didn't get enough sleep, I didn't eat right, I've got a bad attitude, I feel uninspired, I'm having trouble finding the belief and motivation to do what needs to be done. Even through all that, I am still continuously aware of, like, I need to once again get up and try to be my best self, try to give all that I can, and try to use everything that I can to, express myself, to help other people, to help my kids, to be a great collaborator, to be a good friend, love people, love my neighbor. So that was a kind of a long train of thought, just thinking about, it just especially strikes me right now when there are, it's so easy to compare, especially in the context of like a global health crisis, who is really vulnerable and who really needs help. And, it's easy also for me to feel like it's so unimportant what I'm doing. And then I remind myself, but the goal of my company and the goal of my efforts is to empower the making of music. It is to, and if I look at my own, how I got through, Christian, how I got through some of the hardest challenges that I faced in making this company? It was with music. I would turn on a certain song, like I would put on Iron Maiden or Queensryche or Queen or Elton John or something that I had made, and whatever the music was, I would find it would restore me, it would inspire me, it would give me what I needed to keep going and to find inspiration to try to give back and contribute to the world.
Y esto se ve reflejado totalmente en tu proyecto.
Yeah, and this is completely reflected in your project.
Y yo quiero agradecerte por ser una inspiración, no solo para mí, sino también para mi familia.
He doesn't want to just thank you for being an inspiration, not just for himself, but for his entire family.
Y estoy seguro que ahora también para los alumnos, porque todos tenemos estos miedos.
And now for all the students, because we all have these fears.
Pero tenemos que saber arriesgarnos y siempre perseguir nuestros sueños.
But we always need to learn how to take risks and follow our dreams.
Es a veces más difícil para nosotros los artistas.
Sometimes it's harder for us, the artists.
Pero tú eres la prueba de que un sueño se puede hacer realidad.
But you're proof that a dream is possible to make come true.
Thank you, Master.
No, you are the master. And I really understand what you feel about all this, because when we start music and arts, some of our friends do not believe in the project. Not in a bad way, but they say, it's going to be difficult. Are you sure? But we have this need to express ourselves in this way, and that's all we care.
I mean, again, like in some ways, creating art, I don't know, going out back and building something out of wood and nails and with saws and things. In a lot of ways, creation is really selfish. It's really self-centered, and it's like you're kind of just doing it for you. But in it, my mind goes to, well, what is the purpose of our lives, and what is, like, why are we all here? And well, then if I have these inspirations and visions and tools and desires to make things, like, what's it all for? I don't know. I would say just don't question it. If you have inspiration and it's for something good and it's creative and it's constructive, even if it makes you, just you, a better person, that is going to influence so many people. Like, you might inspire someone else to create, or your creation might make someone else's life better. Like, let's say you make a table and chairs out of wood and steel, and you're a welder, like whatever it is, that can, you might have created the very thing that creates community for a family, for their breakfast together in the morning and their dinner at night. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. You may have an audience of 100, on your YouTube channel or on Spotify, but it's likely that you may just touch and transform one of those lives. You may bring some joy to somebody, and so yeah, I think what's the opposite of creation? Destruction. So let's embrace creation however we can.
Y bueno, yo te quiero agradecer por transmitir este mensaje.
Sure, we want to thank you for transmitting this message.
Ya que en tiempos tan complicados como este,
now that in difficult times like this,
es para nosotros es para nosotros algo que tenemos que transmitirle a los alumnos.
It's something for us that we have to transmit to our students.
Y seguir trabajando en lo que queremos para que podamos ser felices.
And keep working on what we're doing to keep ourselves being happy.
Yeah.
Y bueno, tell me.
Oh no, I mean, of all the words that
have come out of my mouth today with you and Julian, it's like, and everybody watching, hello. You put it so perfectly, to make our souls happy.
Porque de eso se trata, de ser felices.
Yeah, because that's what it's about, to be happy.
De verdad no me imagino tener un trabajo en el cual mi alma esté muerta.
He doesn't imagine himself having a work for which your soul is dead.
Right. There's a nuance to happiness that I want to share with you, and
it comes from Tony Robbins, who is like a personal growth, personal development kind of leader in our world. And he says happiness really comes from now I'm going to get it wrong. From the sense of progress, the feeling that, okay, I'm here, I aspire to be here. And when you as an individual can see your own growth and your own progress, that is the most rewarding thing. And oftentimes, how do we get from here to here where we want to be? You don't get that without risk.
Y es que precisamente esa superación de la que hablas es la que nos va a mantener vivos.
Yeah, and precisely that overcoming that you are talking about is what is going to keep us alive.
Ooh, yeah. Wow. Now you're like
bringing the whole big picture down to
like the very individual choice. It is so true. Yeah.
Wow. We have to keep going. We have to keep solving problems. We have to, how would you say it, Christian?
Pues lo que yo busco es ser feliz a través de la música que hago.
He looks to be happy through the music that he makes.
Y de lo que comparto con mis alumnos.
And for what he shares with his students.
Pero lo más importante obviamente es a través de lo que hago, pues también inspirar a mi familia.
And through the stuff that he does, also inspire his family.
And your words made me think of the global context of like us all we have to all keep going. You know, we have to all keep trying and have the vision and the belief that our individual choices matter, and that it's only by making these choices as individuals that collectively we can solve the problems.
Porque déjenme ordenar mis ideas. Es que esto ha sido realmente muy, muy emotivo. Y sí, tenemos que seguir luchando por lo que queremos.
We have to keep fighting for what we want.
Y ser felices a través de ello.
And be happy through it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here is Gonzalo Schroeder. Here.
Oh, Gonzalo's on?
Sí.
I'm not monitoring on my phone. I'm just with you. I'm just with you. But
hey Gonz, how you doing, man? Oh, cool. Oh my God.
Another master.
Yeah. And well, we want to thank you for all this. We want to go to the private session with the students because they want to make you some questions, and I think these are this was a very different talk for me in Life in Music, because you really touch my feelings and my way to think, and I don't know, I really appreciate that. Thank you for everything, and well, I want to quisiera que si puedes darle unas palabras a nuestros alumnos y a los papás.
Can you give us some words of your own to the students and to the parents, please?
Para que sigan persiguiendo sus sueños.
So that they can keep chasing their dreams.
I'd say it all starts with listening.
So, every one of us is an individual, and it's a challenge, as you know, Christian, as a parent, and it's a challenge for me as a parent to not project upon my children, what my visions are and what I would do. So it's important because this world, as we were saying, doesn't need another me. It needs each of us as individuals to make the most of who we are. So parents, our job is to ask the right questions and to listen and to help bring out of these young creators and these young expressors and whatever it is that they're interested in, science, art, music, technology, and help and facilitate their exploration and self-discovery and growth.
Increíbles palabras, maestro. Muchas gracias.
Incredible words, maestro. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Y bueno, realmente es algo que tenemos que hacer como padres, pero también como sociedad. Saber escuchar.
That's what we have to do as parents, but also as a society, to listen.
Y permitir que las nuevas generaciones se desarrollen como ellos quieren.
And to allow to the new generations to develop as how they want to.
Well said,
Maestro.
Thank you very much. Bueno, pues vamos a ir a la sesión privada. Le agradezco a todas las personas que han estado aquí. Antes de ir a la sesión privada, maestro, si me permite, le voy a presentar nuevamente a nuestro invitado de mañana.
All right, we're going to present to you, before going to the private session, we're going to present you to our guest of tomorrow.
El maestro Gonzalo Schroeder, que es músico, productor, compositor, ganador de un Grammy, un increíble músico y productor, quien nos acompañará mañana. De hecho son amigos, el maestro Gonzalo y el maestro Alex. Y bueno, él también nos estará compartiendo su visión acerca de la música. También quiero agradecer a Julian, que estuvo aquí conmigo traduciendo lo que yo tenía que decirle al maestro. Y bueno, ha sido realmente una plática muy muy emotiva. A veces es difícil conectar las palabras y las emociones, pero de verdad yo los invito a que busquen el trabajo del maestro Alex Oana. Su página está increíble. Él hace pruebas. You tested like 300 microphones?
It was 250 physical microphones, and then when you take into account all of these digital modeling
Microphones, it's over 300.
Él probó en vivo 250 micrófonos y después con otras pruebas se hicieron 300. Entonces ustedes tienen la oportunidad de conocer el sonido de todos estos micrófonos en su página web. Es algo que yo nunca había visto. Y como lo mencionaba, es algo que nos va a ayudar a desarrollar de mejor manera nuestras ideas musicalmente hablando. Y bueno, también esta cuestión de su historia de vida, donde él arriesgó todo por su sueño, y como con el apoyo de su familia y también con una fuerte convicción lo ha logrado. Entonces, Life in Music se trata de eso, ¿no? De tratar de inspirarnos todos para ser mejores y seguir persiguiendo nuestras metas y nuestros sueños. Thank you very much, Master.
Thank you, Master. A pleasure, a privilege. I feel lucky to be able to hear these questions from you and to be able to share. And I hope that that the people who heard
our discussion can take something from it to help their own life.
Los afortunados somos nosotros por tenerte aquí.
We're the lucky ones for having you.
Y bueno, pues vamos a la sesión privada. Muchas gracias a todos. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.